behavior analysis is about changing human behavior in ways that benefit human beings. And they felt constrained by the limited number of ways in which behavior analysis is actually affecting the world.
Soon will rise a storm, will burst into our
Since the nurture effect came out, I've had all of these behavior analysts who've reached out to me and wanted me to do workshops and keynote addresses to behavior analytic organizations all over this country and in Brazil and in Europe. But the theme that I got, because I would sign these books for people in book signings, and I'd always say, well, what do you do? And most of them would say that they're in developmental disabilities, working with autism. But repeatedly they said that they wanted to have, they got into this because they got it that behavior analysis is about changing human behavior in ways that benefit human beings. And they felt constrained by the limited number of ways in which behavior analysis is actually affecting the world. And that's a theme that I've heard over and over again as I've talked to people. And so somehow, when Maria Malott read the book, she called me and she dragged me to get involved with the association. And one of the things that we've done is try to pull together organizations that would work along with ABAI to make the case for behavioral science. And so we've got the Association for Behavior Analysis, we have the Association for Contextual Behavioral Science, the Association for Positive Behavior Support, the Society for Behavioral Medicine, the Evolution Institute, and the National Prevention Science Coalition. And what we've done is put this coalition together to see if we can articulate the ways in which behavioral science tells us what people need to thrive, and see if we can advocate for not only the policies and programs and the conditions that people need to thrive based on what we've learned over the last 50 years, but also to advocate for more attention to the research that could further advance that. And so that's an exciting process. And we initially said that one of the things we would work on is articulating what families need, because, and we're concentrating on the United States on this, because in the United States, we have a huge proportion of families who are not thriving. We have the highest rate of family poverty and child poverty of just about any developed country. We have the highest rate by far of economic inequality of any developed country. And economic inequality and poverty are two things which harm families and harm the development of children and adolescents, and result in intergenerational poverty, because a kid raised in those conditions is less likely to be successful in school, less likely to develop possibly the social skills that they need. And so it makes it all the more likely that they will continue in poverty. So we're putting together a document which will articulate what is needed. And what we want to do is argue that we need something like the decade of the family, that we need a mobilization of this country to try to increase the degree to which families have all of the supports they need to succeed. And so you can sort of think about that at two levels. The first level is the kinds of things that behavioral scientists have really worked hard on and made a lot of progress, like good family interventions, good school interventions, and to some extent community interventions. But you also have to look at the larger context for that, because to the extent that people are living in poverty, that they're in an economically unequal society, and the extent to which they're facing discrimination, which is a huge risk factor for people's well-being. All of those things need to be addressed, both the more distal influences on well-being and the more proximal ones. So we're going to come out with a set of recommendations for policies and programs, and then what we hope to do is speak with one voice across these organizations to mobilize the membership of those organizations, and to speak with one voice to policymakers and to other organizations that are on the same wavelength or could be influenced by what we're doing. So I'm hopeful that that approach, it's sort of a departure for behavioral scientists because, you know, we generally hoped that the feds would fund us to do things, and we've done the things that they were willing to fund us to do, but we've never taken a leadership role in what we could do as a society.
This channel is entirely supported by people like you. If you have the means to, please check out the link to Patreon and maybe consider helping bring more of this to the world. More info on what Tony was talking about down below. That's your Daily BA.
I told you I could start talking.
Great idea.
sky